This is Back Roads of Illinois, server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. On KSIR in Fort Morgan, Colorado. I am Cesar Delgado. 1/3 American farmers are finding injury to the farm. This planting season is over, but 2/3 American farmers are getting hurt at some equipments at the farm. He is joining me for right now. With me is Terry Jonhston from Farm Rescue, and the commodities markets is hand to hand in the crop insurance like with ARC and PLC. They are joining me now is Ryan Lefit from Compeer and Bridgman from agmarkets.net. This is Back Roads of Illinois, server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. On KSIR in Fort Morgan, Colorado. The commodities markets is hand to hand in the crop insurance like with ARC and PLC. They are joining me now is Ryan Lefit from Compeer and Bridgman from agmarkets.net. Hey Ryan and Connor, how are you?
Hey Caesar, I had to look back in my notes. The spring 2026 is progressing rapidly. As you and I mentioned before we started recording, we're getting a lot of acreage reports and plant dates and confirming where crops went. I looked back in my notes, the two notable storms that I've got. Early March 10th was a Tuesday, was the tornadoes that ripped through Kankakee. Had some 6-inch hailstones deposited around the area, did a ton of wind damage. Luckily, we know in March there aren't any crops emerged or planted in the ground, so we were okay on that one. That storm served as a reminder of what Mother Nature is capable of. And then the one I think you might be referring to, April 27th, Monday, April 27th, kind of the northern Route 80 corridor through LaSalle County and maybe into Kendall County, Grundy County areas. We had a pretty decent rain event that had a 3-inch packing rain, and for guys who had crops planted, it sealed the ground up pretty good, and we had guys watching for replants. Rotary hose were out, trying to poke holes, loosen up the ground. Not everybody had to replant, but we did have a significant amount of those acres that had to tear stuff up and replant. So yeah, that's probably the one you're referring to. April 27th, where not terrible flooding, but just enough to, for the guys who had stuff in the ground, maybe had to go back and replant.
Do you recommend for any claims that this early into the season?
Our claims on the federal crop insurance side are replant mainly only at this time. There was some concern because of how the rains were coming in April and pushed through May. There were some concerns that we might have gotten into a prevent plant situation, meaning field conditions weren't fit to be able to plant. So once you get to June 5th for corn and June 15th for soybeans, that's county specific. So I'm speaking about our counties, this area. Unable to plant could have gotten us into a prevent plant situation, but not the case this year. we missed a couple of rains in May, and most everybody was able to, pretty much everybody.
I'm doing good, Caesar. Much better than the markets are doing today.
The crop insurance like a great product to farmers, and it is a good place to start your investment products. How can we expect to receive premium for corn and beans, Connor?
Yeah, well, $1 million question on how to receive a premium, and days like today, it's good that we have crop insurance that we have. And the big thing with crop insurance or any of these commodity safety nets like ARC and PLC is how the big beautiful bill changed them and made them much better. So in terms of crop insurance, what you saw is ECO, SCO, these different policies, they became more subsidized. They became cheaper, so it became easier for a producer to have a higher floor than maybe they had in previous years. They could get their base policy, put that ECO on, and then suddenly they've got a nice floor that's not necessarily going to break the bank. And right now with these corn at 451 and the Feb average at 462, crop insurance is very quickly coming into play with these lower prices. The other thing to keep in mind is when we look at ARC and PLC, in previous years, it would take an absolute disaster for either one to really come to the table and pay out. That's no longer the case with these higher reference prices. Um, we can be at much higher levels. And so the other thing to keep in mind is we still don't have to make a decision if you're going to take ARC or PLC. But I think the main thing right now is for producers to understand what is crop insurance doing for me, where is a potential ARC and PLC floor at, and then making sure we're marketing accordingly, right? If corn right now, December corn's at 450, um, without any type of insurance or any type of safety net, if corn went to 380, it would be disastrous. It would be um, well below break even. But at 380 with crop insurance with an ECO, we could have 250. We could have a 250 yield uh, farm average in Central Illinois and still could expect a payment with crop insurance. So I think that in this type of environment, it's important to know that your floor is higher if you took that ECO coverage, than just to be aware where that floor is so we can make some good marketing decisions.
Do you have any plans for corn and beans
Um, do I have any plans for corn and soybean prices? Right now, what we're seeing is a market that doesn't see any weather issues in the future. That extended forecast is non-threatening. We've got acreage numbers right now, or the acreage numbers we're going off of are ample in the corn market, and then we've got a fund position that was very long leading up into it. And so what we're getting fund liquidation on that looks like there's no threats to production as of right now, and that's why we're getting this sell off. And so if we hold those levels, if we plant 96 million acres of corn and a decent amount of soybeans, the funds are going to continue to liquidate if we don't get any weather issues. What could turn this around is number one, if the forecast turns drier for the last half of June into July, right? We're going to start adding some risk premium and hopefully, right now the story is going to be where can we find a bottom and trigger that in some way. The other one is going to be where is acreage going to come in at? And so March intentions had us at, I think it was in the 96 million acres of corn, which compared to last year isn't a big, it's less than last year's monster number of 98, but historically that's still a big corn number. Given, the story a couple months ago was given where input prices are we really going to see that big corn acre number year after year? And I'll say, given given the price when we were planting this crop, where we were at $495, that's not necessarily indicative of less corn acres, but that's going to be a big wild card. If the USDA surprises us and we have corn acres, what if we're down in the 93, 94 or something like that, and we have a little bit more soybean acres? That's something that could get this market excited. But if we just keep going with the status quo, we have a trend line yield and a decent to big corn acre number, and soybeans where they are. It's easy to say the highs have been put in, right? We don't need to see $5 corn given that scenario.
Thanks to you guys.
Thanks for having me, Caesar.
This is Ryan Lefit from Compeer and Connor Bridgman from agmarkets.net on back roads of Illinois.
Well,
Could you tell our audience about your company Compeer on crop insurance in Northern Illinois?
Compeer Financial is the company that I work for. It is a financial lending institution, part of the Farm Credit Cooperative System. And one of the big product offerings that we do, and what I do for Compeer, is federal crop insurance, hail, and some of the private products. So we don't do home, auto, life. We specialize in the federal crop insurance program. We work with numerous, farm families throughout, the north half of Illinois, most of Wisconsin, and even up into Minnesota is the footprint that Compeer covers. So specializes in it, have insurance specialists that are able to sit down and help you make decisions, and then service that product as the year progresses, being there, communicating, asking questions about turning in. Officers that work for Compeer don't leave any dollars on the table. If you have a claim coming, we identify those and get them to you, and work hard to, try to make maneuver in the federal crop insurance program between all the paperwork and what the adjusters need. Simple. We try to be one of your employees at the farm to make it easy and take some of the stress of putting crop insurance in your operation for risk management as simple as possible.
Corn and soybean rotation with inputs cost for this season.
All of our guys are planted. So those rotations have been made. I saw a little bit move to corn, maybe some corn on corn acres, but I would say for the most part, it was just your traditional rotation for the year. And as far as the balance sheet goes, input costs, I don't know if you could determine an average input costs. It really boils down to the operator and their management style on what input costs end up being. I've got guys that are bare bones, might not have all the seed treatments or fungicides, being thrown at the crop. And then I've got guys that, have all the bells and whistles being thrown at the crop, and yields vary. And that would be interesting at the end of the year to see, it all comes down to margin, and see what the margins end up being for each operation. But no, each of that I'm glad this worked out. Can be drastically different. So I know I've been busy and hard to get a hold of. Don't take that personal. I appreciate you setting this up, and hopefully this helps. Okay.
Could you tell our audience about your company Compeer on crop insurance in Northern Illinois?
Compeer Financial is the company that I work for. It is a financial lending institution, part of the Farm Credit Cooperative System. And one of the big product offerings that we do, and what I do for Compeer, is federal crop insurance, hail, and some of the private products. So we don't do home, auto, life. We specialize in the federal crop insurance program. We work with numerous, farm families throughout, the north half of Illinois, most of Wisconsin, and even up into Minnesota is the footprint that Compeer covers. So specializes in it, have insurance specialists that are able to sit down and help you make decisions, and then service that product as the year progresses, being there, communicating, asking questions about turning in replant claims, helping you with if we ever got ourselves into a prevent plant, getting the acres reported, and then at the end of the year helping you report the production and determine if there are any harvest loss claims. I feel good and about telling you that the insurance officers that work for Compeer don't leave any dollars on the table. If you have a claim coming, we identify those and get them to you, and work hard to try to make maneuver in the federal crop insurance program between all the paperwork and what the adjusters need. Simple. We try to be a one of your employees at the farm to make it easy and take some of the stress of putting crop insurance in your operation for risk management as simple as possible.
Corn and soybean rotation with inputs cost for this season.
All of our guys are planted. So those rotations have been made. I saw a little bit move to corn, maybe some corn on corn acres, but I would say for the most part, it was just your traditional rotation for the year. And as far as the balance sheet goes, input cost.
And 1/3 American farmers are finding injury to the farm. This planting season is over, but 2/3 American farmers are getting hurt at some equipments at the farm. He is joining me for right now with me, Terry Jonhston from Farm Resceu. Hey, Terry, how was the planting season in the Midwest?
Yeah, it's been pretty good so far. We had pretty ideal conditions in our lower states. I know you guys have been a little bit wet out there in Illinois, but we wrapped up a couple weeks ago with our folks we were helping in Wisconsin and Missouri and Kansas, and Iowa, and so that's going well. We are still working on some helping some folks up in the Dakotas. I know Northeast Dakota has been wetter there, and so that things have been a bit delayed. We hope to get finished up there in the next week or so, and then of course the western part of our area, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Montana. Of course, it's a bit drier out there. So um, um, overall, the planting season has gone pretty well.
Great to hear that, Terry. Terry, 1/3 American farmers are finding injury or death in the farm gate. What do we need some leverage on the planting season with the injuries?
Yeah, um, we find that statistic to be true in the families that we've helped in the last 21 years. Um, I went back this morning actually and took a look, and our statistics track right along with that. About a third of our families that we help are from injury and death, which is too many. Um, we're of course very pleased to help those families when they need it. But I think we as farmers get in a hurry and don't think about safety as much as we should, and therefore we get hurt. And I get it. I mean, it's sometimes the conditions are too wet, or we're trying to beat a rain, or same thing in the fall. We're in a hurry to get up the bend, and we're not using safe practices. Um, I would say overall, probably three-quarters of our cases in the past have been illness and injury. That's a little bit different this year because of the wildfires. We're helping more families with those kinds of things, hauling hay down to Kansas and Oklahoma and out in Nebraska and Montana. So, but yeah, you're right, Caesar. We need to do a better job of thinking through safety on the farm and being more careful and not working alone. I was just talking to a farmer this week who dropped a tractor rim on himself in his shop, and of course he was by himself, and he was fortunate that it didn't hurt him too badly, but it took a while for him to work himself out of that mess, and after the fact he put a Alexa in his shop so that he could holler for help if he didn't have his cell phone handy. So those are kinds of tips. I never really thought of that, but that was a helpful tip from Marty.
Did you take a moment to grieve to the family is going to work with?
Yeah, it's always tough, when we show up at these cases, um, and there's always a lot of conversation and phone calls. You know, we've had to deal, unfortunately, with some death cases in the last couple of years, and those folks want to talk. And gratefully, our team members and our volunteers are there to listen and help them through that process. And it's really hard, um, to go through those kinds of losses. And we want to be there for them. We also have resources to refer folks like that to for ag stress and mental health and those kinds of things. Counselors that they can get a hold of and talk through these things because it's tough to deal with that loss. Of course, in the process, they need to get their crop planted or their crop harvested or their livestock taken care of, and we're just so pleased that we can come in and help them through those tough times.
How was the corn planting in the Dakotas with the weather and fuel costs and up there? The gas prices and the diesel prices are high. Could you tell our audience about it?
Yeah, I sure can. So we're just about done planting. We're all done in South Dakota. We've got a little bit more to go in North Dakota. I think Luke was mentioning our operations manager for those states was mentioning that it's still kind of wet in the northeast part of the state, and there's still some air seeders going up there. I think mostly it's wheat. Um, but there's other things. We planted some flax up there and other crops. So hopefully we'll be wrapping up very soon for the planting up there. And you're right. Uh, like many places, the fuel prices up there. I talked with Luke again, our operations person, and fuel prices are up over $1 a gallon from last year. Fortunately, he said. Everybody we helped this year with planting actually had pre-booked their fuel, so it wasn't so much sticker shock for planting. Um, of course, we had to buy fuel for our own pickups and so forth. But the families supply the fuel for the tractors and for planting and seeding. And so fortunately, but he's like harvest, now that'll be a different story. A lot of people hadn't pre-booked for fall, so hopefully prices will come back down, before folks have to book again for harvest time.
Of course, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, it's rough out there. Uh, we've unfortunately dealt with several cases this year with with folks dealing with that stress, and it's unfortunate. I mean, all small businesses struggle from time to time, but this has been, pretty close, at least in our part of the world, close to 3 years of high input costs and low commodity prices. Our beef guys and gals are doing okay, but the rest of the market seems to have been suffering here the past 2 or 3 years.
E15 passed on to the House and the Farm Bill as well. What is your perspective on these legislations to the American farmers?
Well, certainly Farm Bill was well overdue. I in addition to being on the Farm Rescue team, I do serve on local corn growers and a member of Farm Bureau and some other organizations, and I know they have all been working very hard um, to influence our legislators to get the Farm Bill passed, and of course now we're working on the E15 for year round. I know that would bring some relief to some of our producers if we could get year round E15 and increase demand for some of our crops that go into making ethanol. So we're obviously rooting for that and other different types of legislations around biofuels and the increased usage there, whether it's biofuel or ethanol, and we're uh, we're working hard to see if we can get that become a reality. Certainly, that would help our producers.
What is your position on the E15 with farm economy?
Well, I certainly don't think it's a silver bullet. Um,
Mm.
we've got challenges outside of being able to to broaden the usage of E15, but it certainly will help. We we've become very good at producing crops in the United States, which is a good thing, but it's also can be bad when we've got an overburdensome supply and lower prices, and that makes it tough for everybody. So increasing usage of our the crops we produce, whether it's corn, soybeans, wheat, doesn't matter what it is. We need to find ways to do that, and I think it's good for the environment and many other side benefits to using ethanol and biofuels besides just helping the farmer. So there's something to be gained by pursuing this, and I hope everybody listening will get behind the message and root for higher use of ethanol and biofuels.
I talked to some people in the biofuel industry about the RVO and E15. I mentioned earlier that the fuel prices are currently unstable because of the Iranian war. Don't forget about the fertilizer dilemma. What do you recommend within stress of the farm inputs?
Well, I don't qualify as an economist, but but I would say you know I guess wise stewardship, wise management. I spent quite a bit of my career working with farmers on various ways to reduce input cost, increase efficiency, increase yield, um, lower cost, and around a lot of that, Caesar, is around using technology, smart technology, whether it's on your planter or on your sprayer, whether it's reduced tillage or improve conservation practices to reduce cost, time and machinery equipment and going over the fields. And another thing is keeping very close track of your expenses and income and working capital. All those things are important, especially when margins are tight. We just have to know where we're at to the penny, to the acre, to the bushel. There's a lot of ways to figure it and look at it, but I would encourage producers to be very careful with that. Also, there are risk management tools out there that growers can use, whether it's pricing contracts or futures options, and that's good for inputs as well, fuel, and as well as their what they're producing. Good risk management goes a long ways, especially when times are tough and margins are tight.
Yes, it is pretty overwhelming, especially with the fertilizer prices. What is your recommendation for the fertilizer cost?
Yeah, well, the place I guess I would start is soil testing. I mean, make sure that you're putting on what you need, where you need it. Um, when I was in the advisory business, the trusted partner with my customers, that is one thing we certainly did was making sure that we were putting the right amount in the right place at the right time, and not over applying, and also just trying to keep track of what's the outcome versus the input. Sometimes we spend $10 to make five, and I get it. We always like to yield ourselves out of low prices, but um, you know that sometimes is a bit of a detriment to our bottom line. So I would say that would be on the fertilizer side of things. Um, Again, being no expert, I just think taking a hard look at where we're spending our money and where we're putting stuff. We just make sure but there's some kind of a benefit on the income side of the balance sheet.
Do you have any final word on farm profitability or recap of our conversation about the fertilizer prices?
Well, I would just say, we know it's tough out there. It's okay to admit that. It's okay to reach out to either fellow producers or trusted advisors, or others, to seek answers and help. Nobody's alone in this world, and I think, Caesar, we need to do a better job of leaning on our friends and family and neighbors, uh, especially when times are tough, and seek answers. I think turning inward and isolating ourselves is sometimes our own worst enemy. I know some people think that way, but what I've learned in my years on this planet and in agriculture and farming is help is out there. It's okay to seek it out and ask for it.
Thanks, Terry. I am glad to have you on again.
You're welcome, my friend. Always happy to do it. Great talking with you as always.
Thanks again.
You got it. We'll talk soon.
This is Terry Jonhston from Farm Rescue for today on Back Roads of Illinois.